Do, 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 do. And we're pretty sure we're live, coming to you live, Just Plain Science. I am Max. We have Jeremy here as always. And today we're going to prove the globe, the best evidence that they got out there that we're on a globe. It's audience participation. I'll be keeping an eye on the chat as best I can to answer any questions or any things that come up about how we can prove the globe. Now, you know, I'm a hardcore researcher, so I use the very first links that Google would give me, like any child would do. So that's what we have. We're just going to pull up chat here to see. And I'm the only one watching, so this is perfect. We can get right into it. Okay, Jeremy. So it says here, 7 ways to prove the Earth is round without launching a satellite. Okay, so what we have is the very first thing is just go to the harbor. And it says here that when a ship sails off toward the horizon, it doesn't just get smaller and smaller until it's not visible anymore. Instead, the hull seems to sink below the horizon first, then the mast. When their ships return from sea, the sequence is reversed. First the mast, then the hull. So obviously, the world is in the shape of a ball, because that is the only way that is possible. What do you think, Jeremy?
Easiest way to prove that is just get a camera and zoom in, or a telescope, and see how far out you can actually see, because it's perspective. And they'll sit there and say, well, like you said, you know, that it's going over the horizon when it's not. It's just going out of your view. Your eyes can only see so far. But I think your eyes are limited. Like,
don't they say that is a mirage? At some point out there, it's a mirage.
Right. They will say that. They'll say it's a mirage when really it's not. It's like, how's that a mirage when you can clearly see every detail of it?
Because it has to be, because the Earth is a ball.
Oh, so we got to over-rationalize everything. Makes sense.
Of course. I did not get my 3 PhDs in nonsense for nothing. So this one says, look at the stars. That proves the globe right there. Just look at the stars. What do you have to say about that, smart man? We have stars.
Wow, because stars really prove a globe Earth, you know. When you actually can just look up and see the planetarium above us, like you walk into a planetarium in any science place or whatever, any kind of astronomy type thing, it looks exactly the same thing.
But science says it's a ball, so you got to give it to science. It says here the Greek philosopher Aristotle figured out this one in 350 BC. He says, look at the stars. That proves it.
So the stars stay in place every night, same place every night, and somehow that proves.
We only have to go back to 350 BC to try and figure this stuff out. This is our best evidence, is from 2,350 years ago. Aristotle.
What about today? What is the evidence today?
Well, we're working on it. We got a Foucault pendulum and stuff.
I want you to get a real-time video.
Einstein and E equals MC squared.
I want a real-time video of a star burning.
You're just a dumb flathead. I don't know what you're talking about. Look,
I'd rather be a flathead than a bald head.
Watch an eclipse. Watch an eclipse that proves ball Earth.
Well, why is the moon not always covering the sun during an eclipse?
Because it's a ball in gravity.
So that somehow justifies the solar eclipse being making the Earth a ball?
Yes, it's round. It's a ball. Look at Jupiter is round. It's a ball.
But Jupiter's not spinning.
The planets are balls.
Proof?
NASA.
Because when I see something through a telescope or my camera, it looks like a flat sticker.
You need to have your eyes checked. Neil deGrasse Tyson said, go climb a tree. That's my evidence. Go climb a tree. This is another one of those self-evident things. You can see farther if you go higher. If the Earth was flat, you'd be able to see the same distance no matter your elevation. What do you think about that, smart guy?
It's the same thing with the boats. Your eyes can only see so far.
And I'm just going to break character on that is like, why would it really make that much of a difference on a ball? It wouldn't. The higher you go, it's all perspective.
Even, the horizon would always go down, even on a ball. Like, whereas a flat plane, the horizon level rises with you. Whereas a ball, it would always go down.
Well, we're not talking about that. We're talking about climbing trees. Look, we need to teach this stuff to children so they understand it.
Oh, so we need to teach them that they were monkeys and their granddad was an ape?
Yes. Don't tell me you don't believe in evolution either. I mean,
no.
It's going to be really hilarious.
No.
You and your book of magic. Take a round the world flight, smart guy. Proves it's a ball.
Don't use a fisheye lens.
Well, we're flying. We're not talking about lenses yet. We're flying around the globe. People do that round the world stuff all the time. How do they do that?
Easy. The plane stays level all the way through. It never changes.
I mean, they're spinning around a dish. Yeah. Get a weather balloon. There's the fisheye lens. See, just get it. Everyone can do this themselves. Go get a weather balloon and go check it. Amazing. The flat earth people did that too. Comparing shadows. See, because some guy 2,000 years ago looked at an obelisk in Egypt and looked at one in some other place, that proves that we live on a ball. What do you think?
So, what does that prove? Oh, wow, because the shadow's in a different spot? Wow.
The sun is 93 million miles away. And the only way there could be an angle at the same time of the day in two different locations is if the Earth was a ball.
No.
I was going to say, well, if the sun isn't 93 million miles away, it's not going to make a difference. But there's that. What else do we have? This one's from the BBC. This one should be good. We have known the Earth is round for over 2,000 years. Well, how'd they figure that one out without NASA, you think?
How they get the picture without NASA?
This is funny. This is from 2016. A well-known rapper, B.O.B., has been on a mission to convince his Twitter followers the Earth is flat. How can a 16-mile distance between 2 points in a picture look flat, he questions. Where's the curve? Please explain. Well, they don't have the picture, so we can't do anything. But it says here Neil deGrasse Tyson debunked him. So, duh. Obviously, the guy's an idiot, right?
And Neil deGrasse Tyson, however the heck you say his name, I can't even say his name right. He's such an idiot. But he even says the Earth's pear-shaped. So what do you do with that?
Well, he's right.
But every picture of NASA, it's a round marble ball.
Neil deGrasse.
So is he lying or is NASA lying?
Neil deGrasse Tyson can never lie.
Oh, so NASA lies, but he's right.
So our number one proof, according to the BBC, is that we have pictures. What do you think of that? This is the picture where they Photoshop all of the clouds. That's their best evidence. Lovely. Lovely. By a deep space climate observatory satellite. So it's a picture from a balloon, not a round window. Okay. And here's the one that here's the picture from the moon. What are you going to say about that? You think
Photoshop?
No. Why would NASA do that? I mean, they've got rockets up there all over the place. Why would they need to Photoshop it?
Every rocket I've ever seen goes back down.
Well, you don't know because they cut the feed.
What if you see it in person?
You get to watch the CGI rocket go all the way up into space. I'm telling you. Crazy.
What if I seen it in person like I did in Cape Canaveral?
Well, it was a mirage.
Oh, really? It was a mirage for it to arch over?
That was so it could ride the curve of the planet Earth. Duh. Are you stupid? It's got to fall around the curve.
Oh, it seems to me like the only one that's stupid here is the people that say that it rides the curve.
It's got to fall around the curve. That's how we have satellites and put them into orbit. Crazy.
Yeah.
So anyways, Aristotle did something.
How come it
Why?
always levels out at the same altitude that planes do? That's a good one.
Well, because that's how they get in there around the curve. You're just not smart enough to understand. This is NASA.
No, I'm just smart enough to understand that my eyes don't play tricks on me.
It's a mirage. I don't remember what this page was. 10 easy ways you can tell yourself the Earth is not flat. Another one. See, we're doing deep research in the first 4 Google links that you get, the ones that everyone clicks on. See here, look. Obviously, this is the Earth from the ISS. What are you going to say about that, smart guy? I mean, look at this.
Number one, I want
We got a
confirmation.
satellite. We got a satellite right there looking at you. So you got space aliens up here. There's a flying saucer right there. You're going to tell me that's not real? Crazy.
It's done underwater. It's a green screen.
That is not a green screen. I am flying around with astronauts right now. I'll tell you. That
Oh, really? Then why do air bubbles come out of your helmet?
I don't know. They're using water to protect them from the radiation. And they gave me one of these to talk about it.
Oh, is that the plaque for lying, for the ultimate liar?
And my hat.
That's the plaque for ultimate liar.
So, number 1, top 10 ways to know the Earth is unequivocally and absolutely positively, beyond a reasonable doubt, not flat. The moon. Take that.
Got plenty of videos of the moon. It's not round.
Humanity knows quite positively the moon is not a piece of cheese. See, we went up there and tested. Or playful God, the phenomena that accompany it, from its monthly cycles to lunar eclipses, are well explained. It was quite a mystery to the ancient Greeks, though, and in their quest for knowledge, they came up with a few insightful observations that helped humanity figure out the shape of our planet. So here we are back to lunar eclipses. We've already talked about that, but obviously you cannot have lunar eclipses without a globe Earth. Because ships in the horizon. Again, obviously mirages. Obvious mirages. Varying star constellations. Okay, we've talked about that. And how things look on a round planet. Okay. And how they say they should look on a flat plane. Which is kind of cute. Shadows and sticks. See, this is the thing with the obelisks in Egypt. See, it has to be proven tested science because of obelisks in Egypt that a guy did like 1,000, 2,000 years ago. It proves it. See, we have sticks and sunlight. That proves the globe. You just don't know what you're talking about. Seeing farther from higher. I'll never understand why they use this as a proof for a globe. It's like, yeah, but isn't that true with anything? You always see farther, whatever. Anyways, yes, this is hardcore proof. There is no other explanation for, if you climbed a tree, being able to see farther. All right. Just the way that it is. Look at this. Number 6, ride a plane. What do you think about that? If you've ever taken a trip out of the country, specifically long distance trips, you'll notice 2 interesting facts about planes and the Earth. The first interesting fact I'd like to bring up is that planes are called planes. Planes can travel in a relatively straight line. They're telling you right here. It's like I can't even keep up the act. This is so stupid. Planes can travel in a relatively straight line for a very long time and not fall off any edges. They can also circle the Earth without stopping. See, what do you think about that? Huh? A plane can fly around for a while, mostly, almost always, yes, in a straight line. And they're called planes, but that proves globe.
You just proved my point.
If you look out the window, I know. On a transatlantic flight, you can most of the time see the curvature of the Earth on the horizon. What do you think? Huh, smart guy? You go up to 30,000 feet, you're going to see that curve, right?
Never seen a curve at 30,000 feet.
Well, you just weren't looking hard enough.
Oh yeah, because I was looking out the window pretty much my whole 6 hour flight.
Well. Forget about looking out the window. What about the other planets? Look, the other planets, they're all balls. So obviously, the Earth is also a ball because we have a little.
Pretty sure when I look at Saturn and Jupiter, they're just lights.
Well, you can't prove that. We have Voyager and Kepler and all these satellites that went out there.
Oh, you mean all those painted CGI photos on Google?
They checked. They're very nice CGI. They could totally make the trip and back, and they never break. That's how good our technology is.
Yeah, because they just totally last that long. They have the ability to send a telescope millions and billions of light years away. It's supposedly outside of our orbit by now, and it's outside the solar system orbit, and that thing is still running on what power?
And we're talking to it. And we have been since like 1973, dumb.
Man, the logic is wonderful. You ready to retire yet, Mr. NASA guy?
Look, in 1610, Galileo observed the moons of Jupiter rotating around it. He described them as small planets orbiting a larger planet. See, Galileo said that it's a ball.
Galileo was also a cultist.
Well, he had a better telescope than you.
I'm pretty sure I can pretty much see the same thing he did. And the stars or the moons around Jupiter are in the same spot almost every night.
It says here, a flat planet, ours or any other planet, would be such an incredible observation. It would pretty much go against everything we know about how planets form and behave. It would not only change everything we know about planet formation, but also about star formation. Our sun would have to behave quite differently to accommodate the flat Earth theory and what we know of speeds and movements in space, like planets and the effects of gravity.
Yes, because, a flat plane revolves around the sun, and really the sun revolves around the Earth, flat, motionless plane above us on a circuit.
Yes. And this entire statement here says, basically, we'd have to change everything if everything was flat. And you look at their proofs for what they say, actually, the proof for the globe, and it's nonsense. It's all stuff that's taken on whatever, gravity, how planets rotate, how fast we're moving through the galaxy, how fast we're moving. Nobody knows any of this stuff. Nobody went up there with a stopwatch or a speedometer or anything like that. I'm going to say that nobody's been up there, but all this about what we know about planet formation. Who was there? When they say planet formation, God was there in the beginning. God created the heaven and the earth. That's your planet formation. It's just funny that, in their best, this is their best stuff, guys. This is the stuff that they used to trick kids. The best they got. Just don't ask any questions and it holds up perfectly, right? Go prove it's a globe, man. Go climb a tree. This is nonsense. Anyways, back to our proofs.
Well, one thing that they'll ask me is like, so you don't believe in planets? No, not in physical terra firma, I don't. I believe there's planets up there objects up there they call planets, but they're not really places you can go and land on, or land some Masons and Jesuits on anyway.
Well, they could be flat too. They just threw a T on the end.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, they all look the same to me every time I look up there.
Oh, yeah, they do. And every time I see Venus, it's always a crescent shape. It's never a circle.
I agree with that 100%. So here we have the existence of time zones. So apparently time zones only work on a globe. What do you think about that?
Nope.
Again, sun's being 93 million miles away. That's the kicker. And it's like, how does anybody know how far the sun is away from the Earth?
Has anybody actually measured it?
You can't, because I don't think the sun's a physical object.
No.
It's a light in the sky, though. But this is the just for the very fact we have time zones means that the Earth is a globe. I mean, that's a pretty dumb one. I mean, really? Is that like if you went to go debate somebody on something, that's what they're going to say? Time zones couldn't happen unless it's a globe. It's like, ooh. Wow. So what do we have here? Sun is a spotlight theory. So I guess this is supposedly the flat Earth model, and what they're saying is that we should be able to see the sun super, super, super far away if the Earth is flat. What do you think about that?
No, it's the same thing we just talked about before with the boats and the horizon line is perspective.
You and your perspective, it just answering all these questions. I mean, and you make fun of me for gravity. And
well, then why can't you see New York from a plane across the Atlantic Ocean on a globe? I'd like to know that one.
The pull of gravity. There. It's a globe because of the pull of gravity. What do you think about that? Gravity pulls everything to the center of the planet.
No, density.
Well, no, this is how it works, because otherwise satellites wouldn't be able to hold to the Earth's gravity, and the Earth's gravity couldn't hold the moon, and we couldn't fly around the sun without it.
Airplanes get off the ground no problem.
But they're in air.
But they have lift.
Well, gravity moves them around the planet too. And all the insects and all the everything. It's like if you're in a car and you throw a ball in the air and it comes back down. That's how it works.
It's because of how heavy it is. No gravity.
Correct. So anyways, on the pull of gravity that everything pulls down towards the center of the planet, this is kind of hilarious because it's like, oh, we'll just forget all about centrifugal force, right? Which acts independent of gravity, which should be flinging everything off the planet, especially at the equator, spinning 1,000 miles an hour. And even if it wasn't strong enough to fling things off the planet to escape gravity, you still are going to have a lateral motion on everything, because the whole planet is spinning. But we don't see that.
It's a ball because NASA says so.
It's a ball because NASA says so. They faked a picture and said, look, it's round. When really it was the porthole in the side of their high altitude balloon was round, and they stuffed the camera in there and they got that effect. That's what they got. Let's see. So this is they're demonstrating this mass and how center of mass works. And it's like, yeah, well, we'll just forget all about centrifugal force. I mean, so of course, number 10 is images from space, and it's hilarious. They never use an actual real image. It's always total Photoshop. Does anyone believe this is what it looks like? I mean,
no.
No. I mean, is everything on fire? It's like, this must be California riots or something. I don't know. So that's what we have there. And I guess now we'll move into the stuff that I guess the counterpoints on some of these things. And here it says themoonconnection.com, and here they're describing the moon phases and how they work. And it's all based on the shadow of the Earth and how the moon is shadowed with the sun. And none of this makes any sense, because at a lot of points during the month, depending on the time of day and how clear it is, you can see what's called a waxing moon up in the sky with a sun, which should be completely impossible. So They still do teach that this is total fact, that the sun getting in between, or the Earth getting in between the sun and the moon causes phases of the moon, even though it's demonstrably false just by looking up in the sky.
You ever seen a new moon before?
A what?
A new moon.
Yeah. Well, you can't see it but yeah, I know what you mean. Is that what you mean? Is it a joke?
Yeah, it's a joke.
Trying to get me?
Yeah.
I'll get you. I'll have these guys behind me. There's some pretty scary dudes. Come over there. So yeah, this is demonstrably false just by looking outside. I guess people like to feel smart because they can make a diagram of it, but that is really dumb. We don't really know exactly what causes the phases of the moon. Neither does regular old science. If you go far enough, they'll bet their life on the eclipses being from the Earth being in the way of the sun and the moon, or the moon being between the sun and the Earth, which I don't know.
I know how.
I mean, I'd like to know how they are exactly the same size in the sky.
God.
It's almost like they're meant to be that way.
Yeah, kind of like God.
So we have this other one here on how the moon works, because this is the only one that this must be their best evidence, because of all of the robots and angry old people who love NASA. They always throw into phases. You can't you can't explain the phases of the moon, so therefore you're a clown. And it's like, I don't need to explain phases of the moon because I can see farther than 3 miles on the shore. You see how that works? It's like, it's only 3 miles. If I can see farther than that, that means that the earth is flat. So I don't need to know what the moon is doing. But this is the same image here. Probably doesn't show up well on the stream, but this is the same image here about what they think is going on with the moon. And it's demonstrably false because you can go outside and see quarter moons, half moons, almost full moons up in the sky at the same time in the same area of the sky as the sun. So it's complete, utter garbage.
Oppositions of science, falsely so called.
Right. What this one is hilarious too, that they're actually sticking with this. So they say the tides are caused by the moon and the moon's gravitational pull, right? So the moon spins around the earth, stuck to the earth's gravity. But the moon, as it goes around, has gravity to pull up all the water to create tides. But it doesn't pull anything else to the moon. It's just the water. Just like the Earth's gravity, like it only attracts the moon, not other stuff. And you see here on this picture, you have where the moon is, and this is where the tide is. Okay, the gravity is pulling up the water magically, only the water, nothing else. And then you have, because there's on the opposite side of the Earth, it's also pulling out. Well, the moon's over here, but the opposite side of the Earth, the water is pulling out. So they explain this by the Earth being moved towards the moon and the water staying put. And that's the explanation for that. So the moon causes the tides by moving the Earth and the water on top, and then the water on the bottom on the other side of the Earth stays still, so you get a tide there too. So this is a very selective gravity. It's just called moon gravity in the way that this works. I can't believe that they paid some Freemasonic Illuminati scientist. They actually gave him money for that idea. Is that the best they could come up with? The literal best they could come up with? Because, like, if you want to say the moon is tied to the tides or whatever, it's like, well, on the flat Earth model, everything just kind of runs in a circle. And you look at the tides on a flat Earth model, it just runs in a circle. It makes sense. But in this tide ball thing, you got some real shenanigans going on with the with how they're trying to explain that.
It's like how come the moon doesn't pull up certain objects off the ground?
Exactly, but you know, they're using this as like a proof of a globe, and they come out with this nonsense like that. And you know, the best part is that the water stays still at the other side of the planet, and then the Earth moves underneath the water. It's so mind-bogglingly stupid. It's even hard to describe what they're talking about. Maybe that's how they do it. They just come up with the dumbest ideas they possibly can, to try and speak as much gibberish where people just get confused and give up.
Linda called you the pink man, by the way.
So what?
Linda called you the pink man.
The pink man.
Yeah. You're pink.
Yeah, I know. I don't have any decent lighting or anything in my little area, and I'm trying to move things around to where it gets better, but I'm fine being pink. Whatever. So anyways, I was thinking on a different subject now that we've completely proven that the Earth is a globe. All right, it's a globe. And just go climb a tree, guys. Okay. So now that we proved that, I wanted to talk about, you know, this thing of just had almost a tornado come through here, and it got me thinking about, of course, they do manipulate the weather, and so does every other country in the world. So people who don't believe in that, you're dumb. Russia, you can give Russia money to, if you're having a sporting event, you can give Russia money to make sure that you have a sunny day. Okay. That's how prevalent it is. And what they do is they're heating up the ionosphere, they say. So you create hot spots and high pressure zones and low pressure zones, and you kind of funnel weather that's already there. They're not inventing weather. They're just kind of trying to control it. And if you want a sunny day, you're going to move the storm clouds away. And if you want to flood somebody else because they didn't pay you off, you push the stuff there. Explains a lot of our crazy weather. So anyways, I was thinking about this, and like in the seas, in like boats and stuff, the military uses flat earth for everything. And we have radar, which is all line of sight. And I'm looking at how far radar can go. And it says we have this thing over the horizon radar, where you look at these things and they're like big radio poles, right? And it says they work like this. I don't know if this will open up. It says you've got telephone pole things that somehow directionally go up here. They bounce off of nothing. Okay. The ionosphere is just the layer, arbitrary layer of like electrons and stuff that's above regular atmosphere. So it's not solid. What are these waves bouncing off of? Right?
Basically, they don't explain this very well.
No, but it's not solid. It's not a physical medium according to their science. Okay.
How about the fact that there is a physical object up there called a dome?
Exactly. Ham radio operators know this stuff. But like they're bouncing radar signals, all these different microwaves off of the dome, or they're heating it up to control the weather. And this is how they get long range stuff. And they say they do that because it's a globe. And it's like, well, that's ridiculous, number one. But number two is like, how are you bouncing waves off of air?
Nothing.
I mean, look at this. These are radio waves that go up. This blue part here is the ionosphere. It goes up and it goes, oh, I'm in the ionosphere now. Oh, I get to ricochet off and come back down. And then it's going to ricochet off of what you hit, and it's going to ricochet back up to an ionosphere that's just air, right? And then come back down to the radar thing. What do you think, man?
Totally makes sense. Never question it.
You think that's how it works?
No.
I highly doubt it. I think they just blast the entire
nothing.
They just blast the entire area with nothing but radiation, and whatever comes back is how they figure out how far stuff is. Because when you look at these things, that's what they say they're directing energy with, and it's like, okay, you're directing it straight up. I see that. Straight up.
Radio waves or any kind of frequency or whatever cannot bounce off nothing. There has to be something there, whether it be a dish, whether it be glass or something.
Phil says that they're actually bouncing them off the moon. I'm sure they would say something like that. I'm bouncing them off the moon, man.
They're bouncing them off Mars because men from Mars are up there.
So yeah, here's your another picture. You have your ionosphere, F layer, E layer. It's like, well, so our ionosphere is actually our firmament. Oh, that was kind of interesting. So this is anything above 6 miles, I think, is you're up into the ionosphere. So that would make sense that you're up into space then. So it probably isn't too much higher than that. We got that thing. What's the limit on the balloons? Like 150,000 feet or something?
150,000 feet, right?
Yeah. So that's you hitting the top of the dome, like the kid who lets go of their helium balloon in the gym.
Right, exactly. And they just kind of So yeah, I mean, what else is it going to do? It don't just sit up there in one spot like in free space or whatever, because there's no space. So obviously it's grazing the dome. That's what I think.
The ionosphere is part of the atmosphere that is ionized by solar radiation. It plays an important part in the atmosphere, atmospheric electricity, and forms the inner edge of the magnetosphere. Influences radio propagation and to distant places on the Earth. Well, how would it do that unless it was solid? Right? I'm just crazy, but at the height of 50 miles in the thermosphere, okay, that's where we're going. So the troposphere is up to 6 miles. Atmosphere is above 10K is stratosphere. Thermosphere, well, where's my ionosphere? It doesn't tell me.
Isn't there like a mesosphere too?
Probably. It all depends on who's talking and what kind of science they want to use. What kind of fantasy. Uh, 50 miles in the thermosphere, the atmosphere is so thin that free electrons can exist for short periods of time before they are captured by a nearby positive ion. These free electrons are sufficient to affect radio propagation. How? And why couldn't you do this on, if this was the case, why couldn't you do this down lower and fake it? I don't know. Portion of the atmosphere that is ionized and contains plasma, referred to as the ionosphere. So I guess 50 miles. That'd be 200,000 feet or so. A little more than that. HARP. You've ever heard of HARP?
Yeah.
That's it's been running for a long time. It's amazing. It's established in 1993. And that was Bill Clinton. And all of a sudden started seeing planes in the sky drawing lines, all kind of around the same time.
What do you think, you mean like chemtrails?
They're not chemtrails. That's condensation.
Oh, yeah?
It's condensation. It's chemtrails. What are you, a conspiracy theorist? It's condensation. You know what the funniest part about that PSYOP deal where it says it's condensation?
What's that?
I mean, some of it is, but of course the condensation goes away like instantly. Is that jet engines, unless they're really firing up, like gaining speed or climbing, or they have their engines on like a lot, in cruising altitude, they're blowing cold air. They blow like compressed air. So it's funny that they'd say condensation from the heat. It's like there's videos of people standing behind 747s taking off and getting blown away. They're not getting burnt up, you know. It's like warm air maybe, but not like a fighter jet burning afterburners and stuff. Oh, you familiar with Ben Shapiro?
Don't think so.
What is it? Ben Shapiro is the guy that a lot of the older so-called, conservative Republican people like. He's a really funny guy, but he's a guy who's like the master debater, you call it, the master debater, and he's got his own show on Fox there, and there's kind of like placing bets on whether or not the guy is autistic or something, and he read some lyrics about making fun of some sort of a rap song, and he made a comment that his wife told him that a wet vajayjay mean they had some sort of disease. This is from his wife, who was a doctor. So it's pretty funny that is the guy who is supposedly the brainchild for the conservatives and the Republicans, is the guy who has to ask his wife what all that is. And the wife says that, they obviously have some sort of a problem. It's like, okay, so your kids are adopted. Anyways, doesn't have much to do with flat earth, but it was a tab that was up. So I'm like, yeah, why not? So this is another one, man. Do you know anything about this? Now we're off into rabbit trail territory. About like dinosaurs and stuff like that. Like all of the dinosaurs, right, are they're like plaster of Paris mock-ups of supposed bones that they have in storage.
Right. Yeah, I never believed in the dinosaurs, except maybe like bigger alligators. That's about it.
So what do you think about dinosaurs here? Just out of curiosity. This could be a whole nother thing, but
well, I like I said, ever since I started, reading the Bible for myself, it's just like, where the dinosaurs fit in with man? They don't. Like, where was dinosaurs created in the beginning? They weren't. The Bible does not teach that. Where did Noah have giant lizard-like creatures on the ark? He did.
That's kind of a head scratcher, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, there is one theory out there that I actually hadn't heard before. That was that the entirety of the whole thing was completely made up.
What, dinosaurs?
Dinosaurs, the entirety of the entire thing is completely made up.
Oh no, now you'll get some real people upset.
I know. We're attacking people's childhood. How could we do that? Attacking
No,
people's childhood.
I mean, I really believe the dinosaur thing was just a bunch of garbage made up to prove evolution.
Yeah.
Because somehow, you got the idea that T-Rexes eventually came birds later on or whatever, and just stuff like that.
Yeah, and maybe they were big chickens back in the day. Who knows? But I mean, it does. Here's the thing: is apparently the guy who invented the term dinosaur was part of that whole cabal with Darwin and all that, and all these in Lyle. Is it Lyle? I'm
Yeah.
not. The guy who invented the geologic column, right?
Yeah.
All those guys, like Darwin wrote the book and the idea, and everybody else had to come up with ideas to kind of shoehorn in there. And apparently the guy who came up with the term dinosaur came up with the term before there was even ever a fossil found. They didn't come up with a fossil for a couple of years later, and it was just a tooth. And then since then, they've been apparently putting dinosaurs together.
Right.
So,
yeah, and I see a lot of these creationists try to do that too. They'll try to defend the dinosaur position. I know Kent Hovind is one of those guys, and whatever. Kent Hovind, he's Kent Hovind.
Kent Hovind's Kent Hovind. I mean,
but can you really sit here and tell me that man walked with T-Rexes and velociraptors and stuff like that? No, come on.
Well, that whole thing is like if T-Rexes never existed and it's just somebody's imagination, because looking at the way, I mean, I always kind of took it as, they find bones and then they just kind of make up something, which is like what happens. Here's Lucy. This is what Lucy supposedly looks like, right? It's an ape that looks more like a person, and here's what they think it looks like standing up and all of this stuff. And when you look at what they actually found for bones for Lucy, that is the entirety of what they found for Lucy bones. So how do you get a perfect picture of what Lucy looked like with you don't even have a skull? You're just looking at some chicken bones thrown on the ground, and you're going, "Oh yeah, that's the missing link." Obviously.
Yeah, and I do believe that man was bigger, before the flood. Like,
oh, of course.
Kind of like Avatar. I think Avatar was basically that movie in 2009. Mm-hmm. I do believe that was them trying to rip off the pre-flood world, because in there they had like big trees. That's another thing we can talk about too. Is like there's petrified stumps everywhere in the world of giant trees, and man was a lot bigger back then. So right. I do believe that, because everything back before the flood happened, the atmosphere was completely different. It was a much more, how can I say it, like dense atmosphere. Like the oxygen capacity was just way higher. You could grow things a lot better. Everything was just better. Like food, everything was just better. And then after the flood happened, well, what happened? The earth changed and everything went more and more corrupt. Just went more and more less, I guess you could say. And man's lifespan collapsed to where it was like 120 years. And before then, they were living almost 900 years old. So,
yep. Well, so Ken Hovind says, that the lizards and stuff never stop growing. So yeah, if things are living to be 1,000 years old, but these don't resemble anything that's currently living.
No.
And the story that they give you for dinosaurs is so ridiculous that it's completely unbelievable. But what if just the whole thing is a scam? And the reason being is because they're finding a lot of giant bones that they don't want to, in big, tall humans, they got to have a story for. Oh, we're digging up a dinosaur.
Right.
You think?
And there's been plenty of confirmed cases of giant man bones being dug up. I mean, you can't even Google it. Yeah, go ahead and Google it if you can.
I had it up actually before. Smithsonian admits to destructions of thousands of giant bones, apparently. And this is an article that's been around a while, doesn't go anywhere. But the idea is that, well, I mean, with the dinosaur thing, you've got the creation of the term dinosaur before ever finding a dinosaur bone. And then 4 or 5 years later, the Smithsonian is invented and they start finding bones everywhere. And you have all these issues where you do have like a lot of old black and white photos of people that are like 10 feet tall, but that's not even that outrageous to have people that tall. I mean, Andre the Giant was like 8 foot something.
Right. Like, I think the one wrestler is still wrestling today. I think his name is Big Show. I think he's like 7'7".
Yeah. So here you got a guy who's holding a femur, obviously a femur bone. It doesn't look like anything else. And you'd say that's a dinosaur, must belong to a dinosaur. But, you know, all of these are fake, just like everything you see beyond 3 miles, it is a mirage.
Right. That's a mirage he's holding there.
It's a mirage. It's Photoshop.
And I'm sure gravity plays a part in that too.
Which is tough because I did the stream about pretty soon that like nothing is going to be real on the internet. Everything is going to be so fake you can't trust anything. And, you know, at least we got a little bit of time left, but where you can finally get some information of some sort. Mystery behind 18 giant skeletons. Some of these are hilarious Photoshops, but I don't think this one is. I mean, that looks pretty legit.
Yeah.
But, you know, as Bible people, we already know that they're there. And, you know, it makes sense. It seems to me that everybody is devolving over time and getting smaller and smaller with some exceptions. Yeah, it'd be cool to be 10 feet tall for a little bit.
Live 900 years?
Yeah.
Would you want to live 900 years as a sinner, though?
Well, like Noah or something, huh? He wasn't. He lived, what, 450 or so?
Something like that.
Or Noah had to work for his salvation. That's right. We don't know we don't know if Noah was actually saved. So yeah, the deal is with dinosaur bones is that all of these are just 100% fabrications. What do you think about that idea?
Yeah, definitely.
You think so?
Yeah.
I'm kind of on that page too, except the smaller ones, maybe the ones that resemble. Because here's what I gather is they find a pile of bones, and they find it part of. I mean, they never find all. They don't find complete skeletons of anything ever. So what they do is they find a pile of bones that are all mixed up, and kind of put them together where they think they go.
And then
whoever does that first gets to name a dinosaur. So it's like you get a jigsaw puzzle or something, and you put her together, and whatever which way you put it together, it doesn't matter. And then you just say that's the way that it's supposed to go. And yeah, or they could just all be fantasy.
Well, like I said, you know, like crocodiles and alligators, that kind of thing, you know, bigger ones back in the day. I'm sure there was, but there wasn't giant 2-legged chickens running around.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's that whole scam too that's where oil comes from. And it's like, you know,
no, it comes from the earth.
That wasn't something that was really pushed on my generation, but I guess before they were. I mean, that's where you had the Sinclair station had a dinosaur on it. Apparently, I always just thought they just wanted to have a dinosaur on their side. But the idea is that the dinosaurs are what created oil. And how did they ever get away with saying that when you can create oil in like a couple of hours just using plants? I don't understand. Hitler was doing it in World War II.
Yeah.
So I don't understand that. Where are we getting all this oil from if they all came from dinosaurs? So there's all of these different theories and ideas on this stuff. I hadn't heard it until like a week ago that the entire thing was just made up. I was, And
like I said, I just think it's just a thing just to push evolution.
Yeah, it seems like it, to get the kids involved or something. I mean, I think it was Owen Benjamin who said that they make them in China out of chicken bone, and they put them together, and that's their fake bones or whatever. And the ones you see in all of the museums and things, they'll tell you are cast replicas of the bones they supposedly have in the basement or something.
And I agree with Adam Al here in the comments. Petroleum pools naturally in abundance. The oil companies use fossil fuels as propaganda tool to fake the idea of finite.
Peak oil.
Finite resources. Yeah.
Peak oil.
Yeah, we're not going to run out of resources, people.
Well, oil is a natural resource. It replenishes because that's the way God makes things.
Exactly.
That's it. So anyways, Owen said that, I don't know where he got the information from, but the Chinese make the dinosaur bones out of chicken bone. And I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense with Mary Schweitzer. Are you familiar with her?
No.
We'll look up Mary Schweitzer. Mary Schweitzer opened up a T-Rex bone and found soft tissue, like pliable soft tissue, which is completely impossible because dino bones are supposed to be like fossilized, right?
Right.
That's all supposed to be stone, and they're supposed to be 60 million years old. So if there are chicken bones, though, how come I don't have any pictures of her stuff? If they're chicken bones, though, it's like, oh yeah, well, that makes perfect sense. I guess they want to use bone for some reason. Oh, she's dead now. Oh, that's too bad. Maybe it's not the same lady. Oh, she doesn't get a nice big Wikipedia because she was the one that made all of the paleontologists look dumb. She'll never live. Well, I guess she didn't live that one down. But yeah, she put this supposed bone of a T-Rex into like an acid solution, and it brought out red blood cells and soft tissue. And it's like, Mary, did anyone tell you that that's not possible before you did that? It's like, oh, I guess she didn't. She's didn't put two and two together. That's like, if she would have run that by her supervisor, they would have thrown it in the trash can, and she would have had to start over. You can't have the dino DNA. Yeah, you can't have that stuff there. The other thing that happened with that too is people that worked at museums, because of Mary Schweitzer's discovery, knew that they had supposed dinosaur bones in the lockup in the museums. So like people that were there, like as janitors and stuff, would break open the bones and they were finding soft tissue. So for a while, it was seeming like all dinosaur bones had soft tissue in them, which of course the creationists love, because you can say, well, yeah, because the bones are only a couple thousand years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
Turns out if they're made in China out of chickens ground up, you know, they're even much younger than that. So yeah, interesting. I used to like dinosaurs when I was a kid. Don't all kids like dinosaurs?
Yeah, I did. So I found out they were fake.
Well, I mean, fake. I don't know. That's still debatable. I'm gonna hold on for old T-Rex and all that. I thought it was just an interesting conspiracy. It's like, can't we have anything Does
No.
everything have to be alive? Does everything? Can't have my spaceships. I can't have my rockets or my dinosaurs. It's crazy.
That's what video games are for. Fantasy.
Jack says, let's not forget about the Stargate. At least we still have the Stargate program. As long as we have that, everything will be fine. Bigger animals because they grew bigger. Yeah, well, that's the well, the whole thing is like Jeremy was talking about, is that there was a higher oxygen content back before the flood, which creates a barometric chamber effect where your cells are really efficient, and that would account for people living to be 1,000 years. And certain animals would also, certainly, if humans live that long, animals are going to be living longer too. And if humans are bigger, animals are going to be bigger.
Yeah.
But there is nothing that even resembles a triceratops today, really, except a little buck.
Like, is there something, like maybe a saber-toothed tiger or something like that? Well, sure. But
oh yeah, even some of the littler ones, there's like lizards and stuff that if you imagine if they were bigger, kind of look the same.
right.
But there's nothing like a brontosaurus.
No.
It is ridiculous.
Pterodactyl.
Oh, that's too bad. That's too bad about the dinosaurs.
This is what you get when you become a flat tard.
Yeah. What do you got for best evidence is that everything is a ball? You got anything good?
The best evidence there that the best evidence I have for a ball, NASA.
Yeah, there you go.
That's the only thing I've got. That's really the only thing you can rationalize with it. I mean, you really can't explain it any other way.
Yeah. Because, how could they fool all of the people at NASA like everybody's in on the job,
Oh, they are.
People because people know people who work at NASA, they think that they know everything about NASA, and everything that NASA does.
Well, let me tell you a little story here. Do you remember the movie from 1998 or something like that? Had Jake Gyllenhaal in it. It was called October Sky.
No.
No, remember that? Well, it was based on a true story where he was living in a small town, West Virginia, a coal mining town in the 50s. And he was playing a guy that ended up working for NASA later on in his life. And the guy actually lives in Huntsville, which is not that far from where I'm at, where the NASA headquarters is at. Okay. So that's why it's called the Rocket City.
NASA's in Huntsville?
Yeah, Huntsville, Alabama. Yeah.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. And he actually works over there. And when he got involved with the whole thing, he realized what a disappointment it was.
Really?
Yeah, he realized that a lot of stuff that he thought was true back in the 50s when they shot up Sputnik.
Yeah.
That it was just a weather balloon.
Well, of course.
And he actually said that too.
Well, yeah, I think everybody knew it was a weather balloon back then.
And well, so like in the movie, they pushed it off like it was a satellite, and they're going to drop bombs on us and stuff like that.
I think they changed the definition of satellite.
Yeah,
is what I think is. Well, they didn't change the definition. The definition has always been once you reach a certain altitude, you're in space. So if that altitude is 70,000 feet or whatever it was, in that movie we watched or the video that we played on one of the streams, he said like 55,000 feet or something was considered space according to the Air Force. And I guess anything up in that realm is considered a spaceship.
Yeah, Linda's seen that movie. She knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
If you get a chance, go check it out. It's actually a very clean movie. It's not dirty.
What is it? Red Sky, you said?
October Sky.
October Sky.
It's actually a really good movie, and just for the story itself. Oh no, we can't watch movies. That's sin.
Yeah, something like that. Unless it's Stargate, we can watch that one. Jack will like that. Oh, Frank's here. How you doing, Frank? we're kind of ended. You could have came on earlier, Frank, and proved the globe with me. Jeremy's got nothing on us. We proved it because we can climb trees, and that's how we prove the globe Earth.
And you can look at CGI pictures too.
They're very nice CGI pictures.
Yeah.
The thing with NASA though, and it's like maybe back in the day people knew what was going on. I mean, I think that everything is so compartmentalized. You look at like if you're a dishwasher at a restaurant, you have no idea what the manager is doing with the tips. You know what I'm saying? You're just a dishwasher. You don't know what the busboy is doing. You kind of can gather what the waitress does, takes orders and does whatever. But nobody working for a company even knows what the person in the next cubicle does all day. This idea that everybody at NASA has got to be in on the scam, that's stupid. Once they built their underground, not underground, their underwater filming studio, it was kind of done. All they got to do is pay a couple of actors to go play around with the ISS thing. And Elon Musk is happy to sit there like an idiot and pretend to shoot cars into space and whatever. And it's all done. Less and less and less people now.
I've yet to have anybody logically explain to me the globe or even outer space. Like I said, outer space was a big thing. I actually neglected outer space for a long time, being geocentric, believer that I am. It's
the simplest thing is like, it's just one of those, it's such a good mind control that no one ever bothered to ask or something. But how do you have a vacuum of space next to atmosphere on a planet with no barrier?
Right.
Doesn't make any sense at all.
Right. And the least thing we all can understand here is that regardless if you believe in a globe or a flat plane, we all can agree that there's no such thing as outer space. That is ridiculously impossible to prove.
Well, I don't know anything about whether or not there's outer space or not, but I know that rockets ain't going to work there if it's a vacuum. And
right.
Yeah, I don't know. If you get up there farther and farther to the point where there's just no more air in the atmosphere, it's just a void. It's still not a vacuum. Like if you're in a dome and the top part of the dome is a different type of gas that isn't our atmosphere or whatever, because it's lighter. It's all helium. It's all the helium up there from what NASA is shooting up.
Right.
Whatever it is up there, it still has to be encased in something.
Yep.
And yeah,
I've seen. I was just going to say that I've actually seen geocentric globe Earth models where like you have the Earth inside of like a glass ball.
Yeah. That was one of the things that they taught in 7th grade or something. They had to teach all the different models in my school. So they taught your standard globe. Then it wasn't a flat Earth. It was like a half a globe. It was a half a globe, right?
Right.
With the stars spinning above it in like a dome thing. I think that they said that was the Jewish model or something. I don't know. And yeah, that's when they go through, okay, and this way is God did everything. And in this way is the Big Bang, where it leads to evolution, which we can clearly see and is proven by science, right? And then at the end of their little speech, they go, now who believes that in magic that God did it? And no one's looking around or raising their hands. And who believes what science believes? Oh, I do. Show me the dinosaurs again. That's how they do it. But they did have to teach all the models in my school when I was a kid.
It's funny because science is testable, observable, and demonstratable.
No. We write equations on a chalkboard and we say we're right. And we insist we're right. And I have a better imagination than you do. So obviously I'm right. That's how we do things these days. We don't need that trigonometry. Forget that.
Oh, imagination over logic.
Well, we've got a whole country of people running around with putting masks on their face to go put gas in their car. So my money is not on logic. My money is on the other one. whatever one we've got. So do you think without NASA, and we had an excuse for not, I mean, I think NASA was kind of a dumb idea to begin with, but do you think without NASA, people would just say we're on a flat earth, or do you think they absolutely had to go to NASA? Do you think they had to do that?
Well, they had to come up with something to disprove creation.
But
Whether
do they need
whether,
they need space just for the planets, and so you can have life other planets, right?
of course, you got to have outer space, because
But if
you
they
can't
do
prove
that,
you can't prove that the Earth is a centralized location. Everything revolves around it. No, that would prove creation.
right? But I'm just saying, like, couldn't you still fake all that stuff without trying to launch rockets and trying to prove it? Because how did they know, like, 50 years from now we'll have good enough technology where we can just do all this with computers?
Right. No, I believe they could have. I believe they could have done it without NASA. Really.
I mean, yeah, it seems like a lot of work, and it's a lot of evidence to show that they're completely have been faking it the entire time.
They've been wasting all this money, all of our American dollars, on
It's
junk.
so blatantly obvious. And I think I talked to you after I watched it. I watched the SpaceX swapping out the astronauts. That's like 4.5 hours long. I watched that dumb thing. I also watched the one that was like a 2-hour one of launching some other kind of rocket. The whole thing was hilarious. And it's
It actually sat there and watched the whole 4 hours.
well, I kind of clicked through it, but there was so much interesting fantasy in it that I had to stop it and watch how badly they're doing it. I mean, you can still see people's clothes getting pulled out from wires, right? And it's like they make it like it's happening live. It obviously isn't happening live, but they make it like it is. And it's like you go through all of that work, $50 million a day, and you can't post produce better than that. You couldn't do another take, because you can see the guy's harness thing like holding up his shirt. And I actually want to pimp a channel about how they do it, because some of their effects I thought were really good. And I was kind of curious as to how they do them, and they're doing them in layers where they're actually using. Another thing is, like, you remember the space shuttle? You'd see the space shuttle on top of a 747, and they'd say they were doing that so they could move it from place to place, the space shuttle.
Yeah.
Remember seeing that picture?
Yeah.
Well, that's so they can go up with the 747 and do a vomit comet and do 0G in it.
Mm-hmm.
Makes so much obvious sense that I had never even thought of before. It's like, oh yeah, that's how they do it. And then when it's time for the return, when it's time for the return trip, we just disconnect the shuttle and they fly her in there. I mean,
they glide it back down.
Well, it's good for them. They actually had to fly back in the day. I guess they didn't want to train their actors how to fly, so we're doing the ISS now. Oh, and fully automated rockets, dude. Fully automated. They stick these guys in there in these rockets to go to the space station. They don't even do anything. They just hit autopilot, and then the thing goes up there and does it spinning around at 30,000 miles an hour, and like docks seamlessly. And these guys are just like going for a ride at Valley Fair. It's so ridiculous.
One thing that
like people believe this stuff. People believe it. It's unbelievable. Yeah, I did. I sat and watched it, and I was going to do a whole thing on it, but that just took too much time.
Well, if you had sat there and watched that whole thing 4 hours, I would have probably given you a badge of honor and,
the whole thing is
bravery.
Like, yeah, I would condense it down to like an hour, but even still, that's too much. And I can't. The way my setup is, I don't get desktop audio when I'm streaming. So otherwise, I would just stream some of it and just point out goofy stuff. Taboo Conspiracy is a good one for flat earth stuff. I'm sure anyone who's here has heard about that.
I have, yeah.
There's a different
I've been told by a certain friend that we should stay away from Odd TV.
Odd TV? I've never heard of him.
Supposedly he's got connections. He's some sort of like evolutionist or something like that that's trying to prove a flat earth or whatever. And it's just like you're logic makes no sense. It really doesn't.
Well, evolutionists live on a flat Earth too, and that's how that is. Dilly Gill is a guy who has gone through a lot of he's done the record search for actually pulling all of the Freedom of Information Act stuff and deciphering exactly what kind of layers and things that they're doing. So they'll film a scene on a vomit comet with real actual 0G stuff, and then they'll overlay it with something else where they're talking to somebody who's doing an interview. So they'll have a real person floating in the background and somebody standing on wires. And he says you can tell right away all the time, because either they're going to be cutting off the ceiling because that's where their rigging is, or they're going to be cutting off the floor. You're never going to see both. And it's like, once I watched that, and then I watched the live supposedly deal with SpaceX, and I'm like, holy crap, that's exactly what they're doing. In every single shot, you can see it. And if you're looking for it, you can see the shirts and everything get pulled and tugged where the wires are at. It's amazing. You'd think they'd be better than that by now, but I guess they got the budget. They got the budget psyop going. Best evidence the Earth is round is the sunset from Frank. What do you think about that?
No.
Well, you got to be better than just no. It's going to be a real boring stream then.
Yeah, well, it's already boring, I guess. Well, I mean, it's just laughable because the sun is on its own circuit. You can see it. It moved itself. Like if you were able to put my camera on the sun, it moves. Okay. We're not moving. I don't feel us moving.
Right. I think he's talking about the fact that if the sun is high in the sky, it goes farther and farther away, and then it eventually disappears.
No, that's easy. Just go stand on your porch light. Just go stand on your porch light on your porch, and you can demonstrate that. And basically what you want to do is stand right underneath it, look straight up at it. That's noon. And as you walk away from it, it's getting further and further away from you. What's it going to do? It's going to get lower and lower to your line of sight. That's exactly the same way the sun works. As it moves away from you, it gets lower and lower in the sky, eventually to the point where you can't see it anymore. It's perspective, man.
DIRTH, deep inside the rabbit hole. Dave Weiss has a video, and I think he pulled it down or something. I'm going to see if I can try and find it quick. But he had one of the sunset where the sun like vanished. It went down, and disappeared. The sun never sets. Maybe that's it. We'll check it out quick.
Yeah. I mean, it's all it is the sun moving further and further away from you. I mean, like I said, you can demonstrate it with any light above you.
Yeah, this is the video. So
I mean, you can do it with a street light. That's a good example.
We will try this. I can't vouch for anything of what's going on here. It's his video, so that's Dave. DITRH for people who don't want to spend a whole lot of time in flat Earth and get real quick stuff. So here's, I guess, sun setting. I remember watching this and think it was really neat. 1200% speed. So we're speeding it up. Sun's going down. And it disappears completely. So this is max zoom at, he said the height or something too. So it's gone. So what do you think about that?
Yeah.
Is that it gets too far away that the light rays can't get to you or something?
Right.
I mean, I don't know what else how else to describe that. Or
right. Like I said, you can demonstrate that with a street light.
Oh, so this doesn't surprise or amaze you at all?
No, it doesn't.
I don't even know why I have you on here. Oh, yeah, it's just the sun disappearing in the middle of the sky. Who hasn't seen that before? Ruined my great video here.
No, it's great. No, it's a great proving factor. Yeah, but
what do you think about that, Frank? What are you going to do about that?
I mean, it doesn't. If that's someone's argument that the Earth's round because of that, that's silly. Someone that's actually studied in this whole topic.
You got the
it's
whole.
like,
You got about 7 explanations to do when you're talking about the sun, though. Because first of all, you've got, well, it's not 93 million miles away, and then you've got, well, what is it then? Then we got, I don't know, that whole thing of it just not being 93 million miles away solves a lot of problems. But in this, you've got to explain perspective. You have to explain that light traveling through a medium doesn't go on forever. You've got to explain that you get a not a magnifying effect. When you're looking through atmosphere, the lower you're looking through atmosphere, the thicker it is. So it makes the sun larger. I mean, there's so many things to explain.
Oh yeah.
In that and how it goes.
It's like sun rays, for example. Sun rays are covering a small area. It's not covering the whole Earth. If the sun was really 93 million miles away, it would cover the whole Earth.
Exactly. Which is why no one ever brings that up. Is like they're talking about time zones and stuff in their round Earth model, and it's like the round Earth doesn't make any sense when it comes to time zones and day-night cycles. Like none. They say it does. When it spins, it goes, oh, see, that's the way it works, and it's like everything should be lit up. Everything should be
miles away, and as big as that it is,
Yeah. Everything should be lit up the same. We should be baking 100 degrees everywhere on the surface during the day, and then during the night, it should be really, really, really cold for everybody all the time. It shouldn't matter if there's a tilt to the Earth. Who cares? The sun's that hot that 93 million miles away, you've got all this heat temperature different. No, that doesn't make any sense.
And plus, the sun does not burn in a vacuum.
Oh no, it's hydrogen.
Sure, it is.
It's got fire.
But you can't have combustion. You can't have combustion without oxygen, though.
Which makes its own oxygen.
Sure, it does.
It's nuclear.
Proof.
It's nuclear. Nuclear. So this doesn't make any sense on a globe either. So how would you even explain that away? I mean, it's a mirage. Is that it? We're going to go to mirage and gravity?
Yeah, pretty much a mirage.
Mirage and gravity. Well, that's really a neat video. I think he actually did this one. It's been a while since I've seen it, but there you go, Frank. That's what happens to the sun when you watch the sunset and then you go to an elevated position and watch the sunset again. Eventually, when you zoom way, way, way far into it, it just disappears because the light can't get to you anymore. That is what happens because of perspective, atmosphere. Yeah. Do your own research, because when you do, you will never again believe what you've been taught.
And what's that word down there? Jeranism?
Jeranism. Dave Weiss, and I forget is it Bill? Guy from Globebusters. There's the big 3 probably on YouTube for flat Earth stuff is going to be Globebusters, Jeranism, and Dave Weiss, which is DITRH channel. Probably the biggest. There's probably, I mean, I don't spend all day like watching other people's stuff, but those are the ones that I'm fairly familiar with. But however, they do a lot of the stuff to like the basic stuff. This is a little bit more advanced, but the basic stuff to like basic questions. I like learning about like conspiracy theory. There's a Taboo Conspiracy 2. He has stuff that I'm really interested in because I'm all about the gyroscope. I'm just all about the gyroscope. And he's got pilots that contact him and talk about things. And also an F-16 pilot talking about how their radar works and all of that good stuff. And that stuff is just right up my alley because it's like the most positive proof to me is going to be what people do in their jobs. Okay. If somebody's job depends on the Earth being flat, that is an over and done with conclusive argument. There is no way to get around that. Like a land surveyor.
It's like with radar, for example, any kind of radar. I mean, what does it do? Does it travel the globe until it hits to a certain point? No.
Well, radar is line of sight.
Right.
So it can only go as far as the radar tower is, 8 inches per mile squared. That's it. So you have radars that do 80 miles, like a ship radar will do like 80 miles. And it's like, if the earth was a globe, it would never be able to do that. And so they come up with this crazy idea of bouncing stuff off the ionosphere. And it's like, well, the ships don't do that. That's ground-based radar. So how does a ship see that far away? It's because the earth is flat. That's how it sees. That's how it sees. And in here we have commercial pilot. Well, that one's just kind of a funny one, but ballistic missile targeting system in here on Taboo Conspiracy is talking about apparently weapon guidance systems have a chip in there where you can input GPS coordinates like they're on a globe, and it will actually convert them to flat plane coordinates to when they're coming into target. So you can put in their gibberish to get it sort of close, and then the onboard tracker converts it to a flat plane geometry so it can actually hit the target. Otherwise, it'd be way off. So that stuff is interesting to me. Here he's got one in a lighthouse that's like 20 miles away or something. You can still see the light, which, yeah, why would what would be the point of a lighthouse if you couldn't see it over a curve? There'd be no point.
Right. If you've ever been on a boat in the ocean, let me say this for experience reasons, because I've actually experienced this myself. If you've ever been on a boat in the ocean, a couple, I don't know, 40, 50 miles off the shore, you can see a lighthouse. You can see it.
Yeah, I know.
And I don't
see the light from it, certainly.
Right. And so it's like, oh, but that's a mirage. You know, that's just the way they explain it.
Well, how can light be a mirage? They say that the light bends around curves, which I think is hilarious because you can't you can only redo that in a fiber optic cable or something. Light doesn't bend like that. Light gets dispersed. You know, like if you take a laser beam and you shoot it, the farther out that you shoot the laser beam, it's going to disperse like a flashlight does.
Yeah.
But it doesn't bend.
No.
It's like, it doesn't bend. It
doesn't bend unless it's in water.
So, does it bend in water?
Yeah, it does.
Oh, that's that Aries failure thing or something.
Yeah. Like you can put a laser light. Like I've got one and I've tried it. You can actually get a ball of water and shine the laser light through it, and the laser light will actually bend a certain way.
Oh, that's neat.
So it's like the same thing, like with like the sunlight and stuff like that shining through the atmosphere, how it will kind of be off sometimes.
Mm-hmm. So in here, I don't know if anyone knows what this is. We play a lot of flight simulators, so me and Jeremy know exactly what it is. But this is a targeting computer system for long-range missiles. And if the Earth was a globe, your altitude indicator for your targets would all have to be recalculated. And it's like how everything and all your instrumentation is represented towards your position, towards what a target is, wouldn't work. It'd be almost impossible because it's all relative to your position. So if you're at 20,000 feet and you're shooting at something that's lower than you, right? Is it lower than you at 20,000 feet, or is it higher than you but around the curve? Well, there is no curve. There is no curve, so it just calculates that it's at 18,000 feet. There is no extra voodoo math going on in here that these systems do. Everything is absolutely relational to you being on a flat plane. Yeah, that's it. And it's a really big, long video, but people's jobs who depend on the Earth being flat, like land surveyors. Oh, we only need to worry about calculating Earth curve if it's more than 100 miles. It's like, what? That's like 80 inches or something. I mean, 8 inches per mile squared. Yeah. It's a couple of miles of drop, and you don't calculate for that. And they go, no, when we do a geodetic survey, and you look up geodetic surveys and who do them, they all use balloons. But they just do the same thing. They fly over and do flat plane math. And an actual land surveying textbook says that in order to do large plots larger than whatever they say the cutoff is, 100 miles or something, you just do them small sections at a time. Like that's going to make a difference. Right. So instead of building the bridge 100 miles, you just do it, 50 feet at a time, and then it all works out fine. It's like, what? You still have to build a 100 mile long bridge. Doesn't matter how you build it. If you lay the whole thing down at once or what, but yeah, jobs that require flat earth. So I got Jeranism here. All of these guys, I think, are all on, they do podcasts every day and stuff, podcasts and streams and live streams. So I don't know what all they talk about. There's the Jeranism thing. Yeah. So what else we got? NASA is the best evidence they got. What has been the biggest question for you, Jeremy, over the time? How long you been a flat earther? 10 years? I guess he lost. Oh, he's back.
Yeah, I got kicked.
Alrighty. How long you been a flat earther? 10 years?
Okay, well, let me tell you, I guess I can tell my testimony. I never really got to tell it. We always rabbit trailed on something else. But basically, how I got started in this whole thing was, I don't know, about 2011 or so. It really came to me that the Earth was the center of the universe.
Yeah.
And that space was fake. And what really made me start questioning everything is when I was going through the back in 2008, or well, no, not 2008, 2006, after high school, I went into the Air Force, like, what do you want to call it? Like that thing you go through where you do like your testing and stuff like that, but not the ASVAB test. I already did all that.
ROTC or something?
I think so, but you have to sit there and do like a eye test or whatever.
Yeah, that's just your physical or something.
Well, yeah, and they also put you through a flight simulator. Did you ever do that?
No, I did the ASVAB. You sound like that was a step farther. And ROTC is like where you go before you can actually go in the military, or if you're like in college.
Right. Well, I went through the flight simulator because they want to test like your, I guess like your reflexes and stuff like that.
Make sure you don't get vertigo and throw up.
Right. So what really questioned me is when they actually sent me up in a trainer fighter jet. Mm-hmm. Okay. They want to test how well you can handle G's. Okay.
Right.
So I went up in a T-38 Talon. It's a trainer jet, the back seat. And when we were up about 60,000 feet and I looked out and I saw everything around me and I was looking and I was like, where is the curve of the Earth? I couldn't see it.
You actually asked them that?
No, I wasn't allowed to. They're not allowed to tell me, basically. They weren't allowed to tell me anything that they see above that height.
I don't think I've ever heard a pilot at any point in any time ever say that they've seen the curve of the thing. And Neil deGrasse Tyson says you can't until you're at like 100,000 feet or something like that. I don't know.
Well, that always stuck in the back of my mind. So like I said, in 2011 came around or so, and I realized that the Earth is the center of the universe. Okay. I established that. And then I'd say probably when I got out of the whole street preaching cult, after reading the Bible for myself, just all the way through several times, I realized that space was fake. It's not in the Bible. And I really thought that we were a globe Earth, like in like a dome type thing. Somehow it worked. Somehow that's what I thought. And that my biggest thing for me was like outer space. Like outer space is totally stupid. And then I started watching Eric John Phelps. They got the Jesuit guy, the guy that's big on the Jesuits.
Yeah, I watch his videos.
Yeah, and so he explained Samuel Rowbotham's book from the 1800s, and I actually got a copy of it afterwards. After that, I was sold. I was like, "Oh, the Earth's flat.
Yeah,
There's no way else you can prove it." And it's just, and for me, the biggest thing was like, even ever since that point, if you didn't agree with me on the flat Earth, at least you can agree with me that space is fake. That was the main thing for me. It was like, because you can't prove space from the Bible, and you can't prove space logically.
well,
And it was always, I
Bible
was
would be
always
heaven,
huh?
Bible, it would be heaven, wouldn't it?
No, that still
No.
wouldn't work, because like, if there's a first, second, and third heaven, right?
Sure.
Okay, well, first heaven's like where we're at on the ground, basically, like lower atmosphere.
The atmosphere, and then the sky where the birds fly, and then where the angels are.
Right. And then you have second heaven, which is supposedly space. Well, that's just the firmament. That's not actual space. Because if second heaven is that massive, that's ridiculous. You're not going to prove that one to me. So, and that's what a lot of people try to do, is try to say that that's the second heaven. That's outer space is the second heaven. Well, how does that make sense? Why would God make a gigantic second heaven that's endless? No, don't think so. And then you have the third heaven where God sits. So logically, there's a first and second and third heaven, and the first heaven's where we're at, and the second heaven is the firmament, and then above that is the third heaven where God is. And it was always like, with geocentric people, they always want to hang on to the globe Earth model, which was fine, but it was like, one thing we can agree on is that NASA's a liar, and that outer space is fake, and that we are a special creation. And that was always the big thing for me, because when you have to have outer space, then guess what? We're not a special creation. There's other creations out there that are better than us. Or evolution. Evolution, goes along with the space idea that we're just some insignificant speck of dust in this huge, ever-expanding universe. And where's the logic in that? That all of a sudden life created on this one little speck of dust and nowhere else?
From
Come
nothing.
on. So, yeah, and for nothing. And so that's why, outer space to me is trying to get away from special creation, that we are God's special creation on this centralized area called the Earth. And that was really always the main thing for me. And then, because nobody was really wanting to believe the globe Earth thing, I was like, well, one thing we can agree on is that space is fake, and that, we're a special creation. And a lot of people backed me up on that for years. So that was kind of my thing. And it's like, now it's like, well, the Earth is flat too, because you can't prove that from the Bible either, that the Earth's a globe. So either way, you're kind of like, I guess you could say, like, there's no logic in that either, like in the globe Earth model when it comes to the Bible. And so
I am just too much of a meat and potatoes to go through all of that. I literally will be like, oh, I can see too far. my investigation is done. I can see too far.
I just like to be able to answer it from a Bible perspective too, and that's kind of
right,
like what
right. I understand that, but it's like, the NASA thing is funny. It's like trying to find, it's kind of like going to a David Copperfield show and trying to figure out how he does the trick. Because it's always a trick, right? And a lot of the stuff is very obviously green screen, and if such a thing exists. But like this idea with like satellites is like, how much of this stuff are they actually putting up there, and what is actually run off balloons? I'd really be interested to know, like, and who is fixing them, and are they fixing them, and how long do they last? Like, do they just put a satellite up there and it lasts 3 months and then it comes back down and they just launch another one?
Nobody's ever explained that.
They have capture aircraft. They use these prop. They used to use this certain type of like DuckTales boat. Remember DuckTales? The guy had a plane or something.
Yeah, I remember that.
They used to use boats like that could go out and sit in the water and take off, and they had a special grabbers on them that would grab the balloons when they're ready, because they used to be physical cameras, like physical media, and they had to swap out all the guts, whatever they're taking pictures of or whatever they're doing, whatever data they were getting. So they actually physically retrieve these things and bring them back. And it's like, well, what are they doing with them? And how long do they ride around up there? And what's the point? Why do they, I mean, just for Google Earth? Is that the whole point? Night before, I looked up in the sky casually and I saw an entire Christmas tree string all in a solid line, like they were all tied together, just floating on down through the sky at night, I'd like to know what makes them light up too, but it's like, oh yeah, that's totally a natural occurrence. All of those asteroid meteorites are just following each other lockstep. I'd like to know what that stuff is about. For people who don't know, NASA is the number one world consumer of helium, to the point that if you want helium in a major quantity, you have to go through NASA to get it.
I would like to know what sprites are.
Sprites?
You never seen those before?
I don't know what you're referring to.
All right, look it up. It's like sprites in the sky. They're lights.
Well, my sprites are sprites in video games. I don't know what you're talking about. Gonna pull up porn or something. Where am I supposed to look? It's sprites. It says it's an elf or a fairy.
It's a what?
It says it's an elf or a fairy. That's the number one definition. So
Okay, look up.
if I go to images, I'm gonna get in trouble with YouTube.
Look up like flashes of light. They're called sprites or something like that. I'm not sure what. I think that's what they're called, but I could be mistaken.
I got a video by Norman Greenbaum. I don't know what you're talking about, man.
Right there, is that Google image right there? That red one? Is that one?
Yeah, but I'm afraid to click images now.
Oh, because of copyright.
Well, no, it's Sprite, and I don't know what's going to come up on the thing. We'll have
I got you.
Some like naked elves or something. I don't know. I'll do that. Now I'll go in images. Nothing too bad.
Sprite lights in the sky or something like that. I don't know.
That's what I have. Sprite in sky. Oh, Spirit in the Sky. That must be why I got Norman Greenbaum. That's a forest fire. What's another word for what you're looking for? Sprite light. Sprite light.
Okay, let me do this real quick. I've seen them in videos before, but I've always wondered what they were. Okay, look up Sprite Lightning. There we go.
Lightning.
Yeah, Sprite Lightning.
There's literally a product called Sprite Lightning. There literally is, so that's what I get.
Right there, there's a picture right there to your right. Go down a little bit. Right there. You see those right there to the right? Next to the Sprite?
That?
No, one more down. One more down.
I don't know what you're talking about. That?
You're almost over. Oh.
That?
Let me see. I can't see. I'm on my phone, so I have bad eyes here.
Yeah, it's like 10 seconds off.
Okay. It's like the one to the very far right over there, next to the green strip.
This one. This looks like a forest fire.
That looks like a forest fire?
Looks what it looks like to me. But you say that you see these things?
Yeah. You can actually YouTube them as well, and you bring them up. It's called Sprite Lightning. That's what they're called.
So what is NASA doing sprite lightning now or something? Or
I don't know. I wonder if anybody in the comments knows what I'm talking about.
I don't know. I haven't been paying
I've seen that light strings, like looks like. Oh, that's not the same thing. I've never seen lights in a light drones that are in a line like that before. But I've seen the lights of like those slow moving balloons. But I have seen this effect before. It's like lightning in the sky that with no clouds.
Mhm.
It's like they look like flashes of comets or something like that. But
Well, no one
I
can
don't know.
explain aurora borealis there either. They have no
Right.
idea what that is. Well, people are having fun in chat. We can't have that. Scotty Osborne says, I've seen that light strings looks like drones. I've never seen it before, so I can confirm nor deny. Jeremy's lunatic. Phil says, can't be any more of a surprise, Max, than Frank shocked visitors taking matters into his own hands. Got no idea. High altitude electromagnetic effect. Yeah, that's what it is, like aurora borealis, but I've never seen anything like that before.
Yeah,
I'm just talking about watching balloons sail across the sky and people saying they're satellites, and I'm guilty of doing that. Like 5 years ago, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, those are satellites up there." Man, was I stupid.
Yeah, apparently they're like some sort of radiation or something like that up in near the firmament or something.
So yeah, here we go. Yeah, those are satellites, baby. That's what I'm talking about seeing a couple of nights ago. There wasn't this many, but there was probably 6 or 8 in a line, just chugging across the sky. It's like,
Can you zoom in on that?
Can I zoom in? No.
No. Okay.
You didn't get it. Here's a close up of that's a smaller picture. I'll try and see one that'll pull up better.
Oh, here we go.
How about that?
Yeah, that's better.
And it's just, I mean, these ones are really clumped and packed together. I've never seen anything like that. But if you take out like every third or fourth one, that is what I see all the time. Another thing you see is where they're traveling side by side. There'll be 2 of them side by side traveling instead of in a line. And then, yeah, those are balloons. There's no way it could be a satellite 250 miles up in the sky. The satellites are like not that big at all. The space station is the size of like a 747, and that's the biggest thing in the sky, supposedly. A satellite is like what, the size of a 4-wheeler or something? Maybe a couple of 4-wheeler. What's the appropriate size for like a satellite? A little hatchback, mini car or something?
Like a Volkswagen Bug.
That would be a huge satellite. That'd be like the Hubble telescope of satellites. Most of the ones that I see don't look like they're that big. They look like they'd fit in the back of a pickup truck.
Right.
You got the ones that they say that are UFOs too, that make a diamond shape, or not diamond, triangle or pyramid shape that go across things. I think I've seen that before. But I wonder what they're doing. I wonder how many of those, because if they did anything important, you would notice them when they broke, and you would notice them when they fell out of the sky, or when they retrieved them or did whatever they were doing. You would notice a loss of service in something. Right? Here's the triangle one. That one looks fake though.
That looks like a tower.
Yeah, I'm assuming that whoever took it has other pictures, but yeah, I'm just going through Google Images. Like, I believe this right here, I would expect this thing is moving, and it's like there's no way that could be a satellite in space.
No.
It's a weather balloon because the thing is ginormous, but where is it getting the reflective light from? That's the weird question. Is like because they're so high, the atmosphere so thin that the sun's rays can actually get to it. It's so weird.
Well, yeah, think about it too. If they're up that high, you know, it's just like when you see those videos of like the dog cams. You know what I'm talking about?
No, but keep going.
Well, they take videos of like showing off the flat horizon. Well, you can see the sun when it gets up to that point. So I'm assuming, it's reflecting off the
Oh,
sun
you
at
know
that
what?
point.
You know what? Where is it? We have to go back to Pixies or something.
He's making fun of my sprites.
I am, because I mean I've never heard of anyone say Sprite in anything other than a video game, so that's how that is.
Well, when you get a chance, just it's called jellyfish lightning. That's what it's called.
Well, I know what I can do. Because I use this photo. This one. And I can try not to fade out. Well, it's going to be all messed up. That's fine. I'll just have a big hole in my face. That's fine.
I can see you just fine.
Yeah, when I switch the picture, it allows me to adjust the chroma key or whatever, and it looks like it's all messed up, but that's all right. So the picture that's behind me is when I was scoping around for really, really, really high altitude images of the sun. So I guess where these satellites are, I mean, it's like I would like to know how it works at like 3 o'clock in the morning. They're still getting the sun's rays. I mean, you can kind of see how it works and how high the sun is there. Because this is 120,000 feet. But how far? I mean, at 3 o'clock in the morning, the sun's like the other side of the Earth, and it's still getting reflective light or light reflecting off the balloon. I don't know. I hadn't figured it out yet. Shenanigans. And for anyone who's listening, I'm talking about the picture that I swapped my green screen to. And Jeremy got kicked again. There you go. You're back.
I'm sure you're gonna blame the elves.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't even notice you're gone. Did it do that when I switched my photo in the back, or?
No, it just did it on its own.
Okay. So at like 3 o'clock in the morning is when I saw this big trail of lights in the sky, which are obviously balloons that are all attached to each other. Now, how they're getting reflective light at 3 o'clock in the morning when the sun's looping around the other side of the Earth? That's what I'd like to know. Is it just maybe because the sun goes farther because there's no atmosphere or something? I don't know.
Right. That's what I'm thinking.
Whereas, like, if you actually went down, well, I don't know. One of you NASA employees have to come forward and tell me all about its dirty secrets. NASA balloon launchers, you. So on the screen, I've got a very, very obviously fisheye lensed time-lapse capture of Polaris. Hooray! Never moves. Does little perfect circles every night. Obviously, that means we are going 666,000 miles an hour through the galaxy, spinning at 1,000 miles an hour, and whipping around the sun at 60,000 miles an hour. Yes.
And somehow Polaris stays perfectly in same spot every night.
Perfect. And it's not like this is just one guy doing it and it's Photoshop. There's people do this all the time. Amateurs do this stuff because it's fun. You got all this equipment. Wow, that's a really nice one. I wonder if this is Photoshop or if they actually did go to the canyon. They probably did. It is shaped like the lens. Pretty nice. Photography. All right. Well, I think we significantly proved that the Earth is a globe. And talked about dinosaurs a bit. I don't know. I didn't see anything on here from anybody for questions. I think we covered it. Frank asked about how sunsets worked. I think we kind of pretty much covered that. I'm glad that that Dave Weiss had a video of his personal observations on it. It'd be nice to be able to sort of validate that and continue to test that. David Wilson says Eric Dubé is the biggest for flat earthers. Yeah, but that guy's a douchebag. So don't watch him. I don't know. Maybe you'll like the guy. I know of Eric Dubé stuff, but what I gathered from him was he has his 200 proofs for flat earth, and it's brilliant, sure, but it's almost a word for word copy of a guy who came before him. Sure. I think that other people do a better job. Eric Dubé was probably the first guy, and so he'll get a lot of credit for that. So was who was the other guy? It was Tom Sargent or something? Mike Sargent?
Mark Sargent.
Mark Sargent. Yeah, he was another guy who was one of the first ones who'll get a lot of credit for stuff. Honestly, I think that the stuff that they're doing, they didn't do, like Eric Dubé didn't do any of his own stuff. It's just other people's stuff that he put out. So I have a lot more respect for people like the Jeranism guys and the Glowbuster guys who go out and put up their own weather balloons and go out and attempt to do their own experiments. That's what the whole thing is all about. Okay, not just if we're just down to telling stories and not giving objective proof, then we're doing the same thing as NASA. It's like, well, just green screen it. Forget it. And that to me is more valid. And the biggest proof for me always will be what people require. If people require a flat Earth in order to do their job. Okay, plain and simple. Plain and simple. No pun intended. So that's the big one for me. Obviously, the Bible is written from the point of view that everything is on a flat Earth. Doesn't state it expressly, but yeah. So there's my opinion on it. I mean, and now it's getting to the point where it's big enough where people are gathering together enough money that you can do some sort of hands-on experiments that people weren't going to throw their money at crazy ideas like that before. And you've got some big people who are actually very smart that are, you know, I don't know if they're really called involved in flat Earth, but like Owen Benjamin was pretty funny because he's a comedian who does a stream. He got thrown out of Hollywood. He's also super intelligent. And he was trying to come up, he had to debate Eric Dubé, and he had 3,000 people on his stream. And he's like, someone give me the best evidence that I can go to right now for a globe Earth. And nobody could out of 3,000 people. And night after night, he is dreading this debate because he had nothing. And I guess that's how he met Dave Weiss, who filled him in on exactly why the globe isn't right. And it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, you got to, once you open that box, then there's no going back. You know, it's like now you start seeing the lies and the fraud and just about everything. And you know, he's not the only one. I also, when I got my start, was watching a guy who was like a physicist. I think I had brought it up before. A guy in England who's like a physicist, multiple PhDs, his award from the Queen for being a brilliant guy, holds patents, and all this stuff. And he was a physicist, I'm pretty sure. And total flat earther. Proved beyond it. That was the first time I think I had heard about, you know, having gas pressure in a vacuum. Totally impossible. Rockets can't work in space it's not how they work, you know, and all of these other ideas. And sure enough, you follow that rabbit trail and you find out that there's a lot of other people that think the same way. YouTube scrubs them. YouTube scrubs that stuff. Facebook scrubs that stuff. It, you know, right now there's a little bit of break in the amount of information that's getting scrubbed because Patreon's basically going to go out of business for trying to do that to people. And the terms and use and service that Patreon was using Facebook and YouTube and Google and all these other platforms use similar sort of a thing, and that's going to be their undoing. And so right now they're leaving everybody alone except for COVID people. You if you say anything about that, you're going to get deleted too. So for right now, there's a little bit of a reprieve, but these guys, the flat Earth guys, have been around for a long time. I know I've been looking up stuff on it for about 5 years.
That's about how long I've been doing it too.
Yeah. I think I got into it like not believing in it, but like even just the David Icke crowd. He's got a huge crowd. You know how many people out there believe that there's like lizard people?
A lot.
There's a lot. That guy's got like 5 million subs, I bet.
Oh yeah, he's made a killing off what he does.
Oh yeah, he's a great entertainer. He's
Yeah.
got a little bit. He does a 2-part talk. He's really entertaining though. He does a 2-part talk, and it's nice of him to do it this way, where he talks reasonable truth, conspiracy, Alex Jones stuff for the first part, and then the second part he goes, "Okay, all of you normal people can go home because we're going to talk about snake people." And it's like, oh, thank you, David Icke. Thank you. Now I can get out my popcorn and just be entertained for a while. That is nice.
Yeah, Hillary Clinton's a reptilian.
Oh yeah, and Oprah. They all have 6 fingers.
Yeah.
They're like from the Princess Bride. The 6-fingered man. Yeah.
Yeah, I like what Phil said in one of his comments before. He talked about the 2 different colors of water in the ocean, where there's like a line breaking up 2 different oceans. I believe is what he's talking about, like where the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean meet.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty neat because that line's actually goes on for a very long time, and it's flat.
What do you mean? The water is flat, or?
Well, like if you look at the line on like where the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean meet up, it's 2 different colors of water. And then like that,
You mean
that
like
line
in real life? It's 2 different colors?
Yeah, in real life.
It's a hologram. The mirage. Pictures about the ocean. Uh-oh, now you've got collaborators saying that there's 2 different colors of ocean. What I had heard about is that you've got areas where you have like freshwater pools or something inside of saltwater areas, and that's interesting. I don't know too much about the oceans and the seas.
That's what he said. He said the line is dead straight. There we go. That's what he said.
The line in the water is dead straight. Well, that's awesome. What would I search to pull that up and see a picture of it?
I guess Atlantic Ocean and Pacific Ocean, I guess split or whatever. Atlantic Ocean, Pacific Ocean converge.
Oh, look at that. Oh. Interesting. Are you sure that's not just a big place where you've got like a trash bog? Because they got like a trash bog the size of Texas, they say out there.
No, they don't. It's 2 different color oceans because they're 2 different oceans.
What causes that?
The reptilians call that.
It's got to be an oil spill or something. No, that can't be.
No, it's not. It really isn't.
It's an oil spill. You guys are conspiracy hoaxing me. Let's get old Max and let's just show him.
I agree with Phil on this one. I agree with Phil with this one.
Photoshop.
Photoshop. Oh yeah, it was the reptilians. They did it. There you go. That's a good one.
Where is this supposedly located?
Where the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean meet up.
Yes, I am aware of that. And like, can you go off the beach of Hawaii and go see this somewhere or what?
No, it's not. Why would it be in the beach of Hawaii? That makes no sense. That's in the middle Pacific Ocean. It'd be like down there where the South America, the tip of South America, I guess you would say, or like somewhere up north.
So this isn't just like the fresh water coming off of the ice dome thing or whatever, or what? Hitting the salt water?
It's possible.
Because when you get down south, that's what that would be, right? Is mostly
Right.
fresh.
Right. It'd be freshwater when you get down to the ice area.
That has to be what this is then, is where you've got fresh water hitting the salt water.
Right. That's what I now that you told me that does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, because I mean, you're just not going to be like in the middle of the ocean and have a lion for no reason. It doesn't work. Crazy, this Photoshop stuff. You guys are conniving.
I'm just waiting for a NASA guy here to retire.
NASA guy.
Yeah. You've been sitting here this whole last 2 hours or so, bickering to me about Photoshop and perspective.
Yeah, it's gravity. It's not perspective. Well, that's really cool. At least I learned something new. We'll have to tackle the dinosaurs sometime. So the best evidence we have that the Earth is round is a Photoshop picture from NASA. That was number one. We've got 2 Photoshop pictures from NASA. Yeah, that's it. I think I closed out the other one because it was giving my computer a fit. But yeah, the best evidence you got is boats go over the horizon, which is perspective. The NASA Photoshop stuff, because what else would they be doing if they're shooting rockets off? They must be going up there and to the moon and to Mars and to Jupiter, because they launched a rocket. They must be doing that. Yeah, what else do we have? If you climb up a tree, you can see farther, and that only works on a globe, according to them. What else they got? Phases of the moon, and which don't work because you can see the phases of the moon at any time in the proper conditions, where the sun and the moon are up at the same time in the same part of the sky. What else do we have? Just nonsense.
Yeah, it's no logic involved with it at all.
Well, I mean, it's logical, but there is no, it's like even a very basic experiment would disprove those. You know, like the thing about the light, what was it? Ptolemy or Aristotle or one of those guys who goes out there and says, oh, yes, I measured the shadow length off this phallus in Egypt. And then I went to this other town, and at the same time, I measured the shadow, and they were off a little bit. And it's like, well, that's the best that you have. The very best thing you have is the shadows don't line up to prove a globe Earth. Like, that is ridiculous. And that's like from 560 BC or something.
Right.
That's amazing. And then, of course, then they got Foucault pendulum, which is a complete and total joke. I'm going to keep looking to prove that the Earth is a globe, because that is approved by YouTube and approved by Facebook and approved by all the media places that I can, without being put in a black box, try and prove that the Earth is a globe. So
that is going to keep failing.
That is what JPS is going to do. I am testing the globe one failure at a time. And that is just what we're going to do. So we've been going about 2 hours. It wants to cut off however long after that, because I'm coming from StreamYard. So we'll take a quick look at what's going on in chat and probably be done here. It's not straight through. We're talking about, yeah, it's got to be where those oceans are combining. It has to be that one salt water combining with the fresh water, or else a severe temperature change, which would make sense if you've got ice wall around the outskirts of, which nobody knows, by the way. At least that's just a pretty good idea. Seems like that's probably the case, but nobody's got a picture of that or factual evidence of that either. We're just supposing.
What I find interesting is that nobody has attempted to fly north-south to prove the Earth is a globe.
Because they can't. I mean, what do we do have proof of an ice wall because of Admiral Byrd. And there's another guy from way back when who also sailed around the ice wall. and he thought it would take him a month, and it took him like 6 months. So there are a couple of, by the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses. Okay. So there's a guy who said he did it, 1,000 years ago. And then there's Admiral Byrd, who did it in the 40s and 50s. And then there's probably other people too. But these are people who have no idea or knowing of each other who went out and did this stuff. So, and Admiral Byrd wasn't a cuckoo because he was the youngest admiral in the Army or Navy. He's like 35 and had a fleet of ships. And he was like, the idea is that Indiana Jones was modeled after him. And that's the kind of person the guy supposedly was. Talking about salvation. Yeah, we're all saved. Most people who are into talking about this stuff are. All right. You got any final thoughts, Jeremy?
No, I'm thinking though on Sunday when we do our work salvation in the Old Testament, I think I'm going to be I'm going to play the part of, well, maybe I shouldn't say it online, but I'm going to play the part of the skeptic of the work salvation in the Old Testament.
Oh man, I can prove work salvation like you wouldn't believe. But
I'm going to prove work salvation.
You just got to be non-dispensational, and you can do whatever you want.
Well, I mean, even this, I'm going to come from the perspective of a Ruckman dispensational position.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get work salvation by non-dispensationalists. I understand that one backwards and forwards because I was one. With like Seventh-day Adventists and all that. It's a pretty common teaching. But when you're dispensational, it's like, oh, well, all of that old time ended and now we're in a new time. But that doesn't mean that God changes.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know. I'm good to do whatever, man.
Sounds good to me. Because like I said, I've come out of that whole Ruckman thinking that everybody was saved by works in the Old Testament. So, I'm going to ask these questions as a Ruckmanite would ask it. You know what I mean? So,
and then there was, was it Show Me the Truth or something?
Yeah, Eli.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and we'll come up with questions for you and let you debunk them. How would you would answer them?
How I would answer them? Well, okay, well, we'll figure it out by then. I could play either side. That's fine.
Okay. Because you have a little bit more experience than I do when it comes to that. I'm still green a little bit when it comes to the Old Testament.
I suppose, but I haven't had to deal with that stuff in years.
Like for me, when I read the Old Testament before, it was just like, yeah, that's kind of nice. I never really, gave it much thought. I just always assumed that they had to keep the law and keep the animal sacrifices up, or they would go to hell.
Sure. The Old Testament's great. There's a lot of everybody's kind of a dirtbag in there, and it's kind of nice to see, how everyone that are going about their lives and doing this, that, and the other thing, and how they mess up every time, and then God figures out a way for them to do their stuff, and yeah, I get a kick out of the Old Testament. I especially like Genesis.
Right.
All right. Well, I guess that's what we have, guys. We proved we're going to try again to prove that the Earth is definitely a globe, and we'll see if our $50 million a day from the scientists can figure out how to do that better, rather than just making movies on CGI cartoons and sending up helium balloons. But that's what we got. One thing we didn't get into is one of these articles actually had talked about how we can't see the curve of the Earth anymore in a plane because only the Concorde went up high enough. And I thought that was kind of cute because the last video I did was on balloons and private space travel, where we talked about the getting rid of the old Concorde, and they're saying that they could apparently see the curvature of the Earth on that. So that was just an interesting sort of connection to one of the proofs. Now, top 4 Google link proofs as far as what a kid would search to prove the globe, and they're ridiculous. There's nothing I can do from my backyard to prove that it's a globe, except trigonometry that proves it to be flat.
Yes, it does.
AKA I can see farther than I should be. Yeah. All right. Anything else, Jeremy?
That's it.
All right. Well, we'll see y'all next time. We're going to be Sunday. Throw your link in the chat, Jeremy, for your channel. I'm assuming we're doing it on your channel.
Right.
Wow.
It's just Rod of Iron. It's the same old channel I've had for years.
We'll go to Jeremy's channel sometime Sunday. We're going to do a thing. Everyone take care. God bless. Stay flat.